Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Before starting my video, if you didn't subscribe my channel, please do, and do not forget to turn on notifications as I'm sharing great contents all the time for you. Alright guys, I mentioned I was about to start validation and validation pipeline today, but I did a small changes in my content. I'm not gonna use Fluent validation anymore because I was testing what kind of outcome am I going to receive if I use Fluent validation, and to be honest, I didn't like them. I'm using existing data annotation and model state in our API project, and we able to much more how can I say, we have ability to much more flexible ability to manipulate all outcome when we have a validation problem. Okay, alright, so let's continue with the exception first. So in this lesson I'm going to continue with the exception handling, then the other lesson will be about the validation. I'm just giving you a small information about the validations. Alright, let's continue with the exception. So I just create an exception folder in my domain assembly, and I created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different exception, custom exception, and I'm going to throw them all during our application process. So let's have a look what kind of exceptions are those. Okay, for example, bedrock has exception. It requires a list of bunch of errors, and we are inherited from exception, and we just creating new error DTO, which is created, which is defined previous lesson in our result pattern. So we're going to use the same error for our result outcome. Okay, so this is a validation exception, but we keep it validation. Let's switch it to bed request. It is my fault. Bed request error. So the error code is going to be bed request error. Error message is going to be filled by the location exception thrown. Alright, let's continue with the concurrency exception. This is the concurrency. We are following the same rules and null object exception. The only changes is the name of the class and the error code and the payload format error and the request validation error. So we can use a validation error now. Perfect. We created these 5 exceptions. Then first of all, before continue creating our exception middleware, so as you can see we have a concurrency exception, right? Now I'm going to enable our concurrency exception, but before that I'm going to fix my unit of work return value. Okay, let's go to infrastructure and unit of works and unit of work. Previously we were returning a string value. I just removed the string value. Basically we are returning, we returning nothing. During process of catching db update concurrency exception, we just basically throwing concurrency exception with the value error message. And if you would like to add more than one message, just put a comma and add the other message as well. Perfect. So do not forget to fix your unit of work, which is which I removed the string value from here as well. And then I'm going to enable my concurrencies for update methods. Okay, let's go to our application settings, features, all features, and I need to open my update handler. First of all, as you can see, I change my commit async with the check for concurrency is true, so it is enabled. Now we're going to check, is there any concurrency exception going to be thrown on our update process. I did same things for invoice, update invoice as well. Here we go. And we did the same thing for the products as well. Here we go. So concurrency exception now enabled for our update process. Alright, exceptions has been created, concurrency has been fixed, and we are throwing two exceptions in our project right now, custom created exceptions in our domain assembly. Where is the entities? Yep, invoices, perfect. So we were throwing here invalid operation exception previously. I just switched this to throw in bed request exceptions and the error message inside. You can add another messages using comma, and you can throw 1, 2, or 3 or 5, how many you need error message you can just add in this list. And also we had an argument null exception. I switched this to null object exception, which I created a couple of minutes ago. So all exceptions are customized. From now on, I'm going to use my own custom created exceptions all over the project. Alright, let's continue. So these exceptions has been complete. Let me have a look my git changes to track where I left. So we fixed the unit of works, we fixed the invoices, exceptions has been created, and handlers are fixed. We add our concurrency exceptions, and we need to create now, let me have a look, global exception handling middleware. Okay, let's go to API project, create a folder which is called middlewares. I'm going to keep all middleware middlewares in underneath this folder, and I created an exception handling middleware. How we are building a middleware? I'm not gonna go through with the root knowledge about exception handling middleware. I'm assuming you already know how we can create middleware because this is an intermediate level project. In this section, we are going to focus more how can we handle it much more professional. So we're adding request delegate and iLogger global exception handling middleware. I'm adding iLogger because after I completed our validation in next lesson, the other lesson will be about iLogger, and we're going to add iLogs all over the project, and then we can track them all very professionally. Perfect. So we add our request delegate and iLogger. Then we are creating a method which is called invoice task async with the HTTP context parameter, and we are applying a try catch inside this method. When we get an exception, first of all we're doing is we are just logging the exception. So when we, for example, if we go our logs, we're able to see when it was created, how it was created, and what was the error message. We're able to see every detail about those exceptions in our logs. This is quite important. Then we're going to get our exception details, and I created a private method to handle those details. Let's have a look what kind of details we're receiving. Alright, so I create a switch block here, and this switch block checking if the exception is request validated exception, it is being assigned this variable, and we are returning our result pattern with no content, failed, and this is the status code, and this is the errors. These errors comes from, guys, in our, let me have a look, our domain. Where is the exceptions? Let's say, for example, bed request, the error comes from here. Perfect. Alright, so basically we are returning our result no content DTO. We're catching all the exceptions, for example, payload format exception, pay request, null object, concurrency, and request validation exceptions. We're returning related status code 400, 400, 400, for all of them is 400 because they are all customer related bed requests. But I'm just make much more I'm trying to give much more specified exception details about what kind of bed requests are there. All right. If there is nothing related with those exceptions, I'm just basically returning 500 internal server error with these details. It is going to be seek and advice. Yep, let's save it. Perfect. Then once we get our result no content with the status code and exception errors object here, I'm going to create a response as JSON, and I'm sending this object through this method. And also I'm assigning the status code comes from our details status code, which is defined here. Perfect. I'm assuming you understand what I'm trying to do in this global exception handling section. Okay, is there anything should I tell you? Let me have a look. Yeah, obviously we need to register these exception handling to program CS file, but I'm not gonna just add this middleware in the program CS file. So I created a folder which is called extensions, and I created application builder extension here. Basically it is going to be a static class, and it is going to have a static void use custom exception handler method, and it requires an application builder. Basically we are using use middleware and global exception handling middleware here. All we need to do is go to program CS file and use custom exception handler here. Perfect. Now it seems more clean, more readable, and maintainable. Alright guys, let me have a look. It's been 12 minutes done. I guess I'm going to finish this lesson here. Let me have a look and make a quick check. Is there any missing parts we done here? Application with extension, everything seems done. Okay, I'm not gonna do any test right now. Next lesson will be about the validation handling. Once we complete the validation handling, we can test all of them in one go. Alright, take care of yourself. See you next lesson guys. Bye bye.